Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. I am super excited about today's video. We are going to be painting a super fun and simple hydrangea painting today. So you only need 4 paint colors, 1 paintbrush, and either some acrylic paint paper or canvas. So I'm going to walk you through this step by step. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we are working with 4 colors today: Cobalt Blue, Hooker's Green, Light Magenta, and Titanium White. We'll use the most of Titanium White, so I'm putting a lot of that on my palette, and then just a small amount of the other colors so that we don't waste paint. So Cobalt Blue, Hooker's Green, whoops, and then Light Magenta for our background color. If you want to switch this up and do a different color for the background, you could change it to yellow or green or aqua, and that would be pretty as well. So today I'm using a round paintbrush. This is a round number 8 paintbrush. I'll use that for the majority of the painting. I'm going to start with a little bit of white and cobalt blue, and I'm just going to start with a sketch of the hydrangeas. All right, so I'm using a 6x6 acrylic canvas for this painting, and I'm just gonna do 3 circles. So starting from the top center, I'm just gonna draw a circle that is slightly going off the top. And then I'm gonna come to the left and draw another circle that's going off of the canvas, and then one more in the center. So I'm going to get a little bit more paint, and then I'm just going to go ahead and fill those circles in. So once you finish that, go ahead and wash your brush off. And then I always have a rag or a paper towel next to me that I tested to make sure I got off all of the color that I was using. And now we're gonna move on to our Hooker's Green. I'm gonna add just a tiny bit of Titanium White. And we're gonna start adding in our leaves. So in the top right corner, you're just gonna draw 2 very slightly curved lines. So think of it like you're drawing a big frowny face and then a smiley face to connect it. I'm going to do the same thing with one that's going to be going kind of behind this hydrangea in the front. So I'm just going to draw a curved line that's starting to go off of the edge of the canvas, and then come out and draw another curved line. So if you can imagine, if it helps, you could even draw the line to connect it there, because you can cover it up. All right, then I'm gonna come in the bottom left corner and I'm gonna do the same thing. So I'm just drawing a curved line that goes off of the canvas, and then starting from the same point, another curved line. And then underneath, I'm gonna do a smaller leaf that's going off of the canvas. So just a slightly bent line, and then another one, and then fill those in. so go ahead and wash your brush off. And then test it on your paper towel to make sure, or your rag, make sure it's nice and clean. Then we're gonna move on to our background color. So I'm gonna pick up more titanium white and then some of my light magenta. I'm just gonna lighten it a little bit and start filling in all of our background. Okay, so once you're finished with your background, go ahead and wash your brush again. We're gonna go back to our hydrangeas. I'm gonna start with just the straight cobalt blue. And I'm just gonna do an X pattern in 4 petals. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Goodness, there's a little too much water. And I'm just gonna fill in the circle with just the same little X pattern for all of the little petals that make up a hydrangea. When you're doing this, make sure you overlap the edges of the circle so that you don't have a harsh border framing your hydrangeas. Okay, so I'm gonna mix a little bit of titanium white into the cobalt blue and make a slightly lighter shade of blue. And we're gonna do the same pattern on top of our hydrangeas, but you wanna make sure you give this just a minute to dry so that you're not over blending. So we're gonna come on top and do the same thing. You don't have to cover up everything that you just did. I like to see some of it showing through. We're just creating a layered work. As you're doing the second color, I like to keep the edges of it a little bit darker. So try and concentrate your petals, your lighter blue petals, more towards the center so that you can have a little bit of the form starting to show by having a darker shadow around the edges of your flowers. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing just with a slightly lighter shade of blue. So I'm adding a little bit more white to it. And we're just gonna work our way up to some white accents at the end. So we're gonna build on top of that, same pattern. Okay, so next I'm gonna wash my brush off and we're just gonna give that a minute to dry, and we're gonna move to our leaves. So I'm gonna get all the blue off of them. Now I'm gonna go back to Hooker's Green, and I wanna create a slightly darker shade than what we started with, so I'm mixing a little bit of white into it, but not too much. So on my leaves, I want to do a slightly curved line on the edge. And then I'm going to use the very tip of my paintbrush and just draw a straight line down the center of each of them. And then with the same color, add a little bit of green in between my hydrangeas, just to create a little bit of separation between each of the flowers. Okay, so next I'm gonna wash my brush off. Make sure to get all of the green off because we're gonna go back to our background and we don't wanna have pink mixing with our green. I'm gonna get a little bit more white and make a slightly lighter shade of pink this time just to create a little bit more depth. I'm gonna go on top of my background and just really clean up any of my edges. Or if you have white showing anywhere around your leaves. Okay, so next I'm gonna wash my brush off and we're gonna go back for our final step on our hydrangeas. You may need just a little bit of Cobalt Blue. So if you don't have any left on your palette, go ahead and squeeze out just a tiny bit. And then you'll still need some white. So we're gonna start with white, and I'm mixing just a tiny touch of Cobalt into it so it doesn't stand out too much, but we want this to be really close to white. And we're gonna do the same pattern on top of our hydrangeas. And this I'm using more as a highlight. So I'm not going all over the flower. Next, go ahead and wash your brush off, make sure it's nice and clean. And you're gonna come in, if you have a smaller paintbrush you would rather do this with, you definitely can. I'm using the same round paintbrush, making sure all the water's off of it, and I'm gonna use the very tip of the paintbrush, or if you're comfortable, you could use the bottom of it. I'm gonna go on the center of my groups of 4 on the petals and just draw some dots to connect them. And then I'm going to use a little bit of the straight Cobalt Blue and just kind of blend in that green a little bit. And then the last thing to do is sign your painting. So thank you so much for watching today's video and for painting along with me. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe. If you're interested in full-length tutorials, I have them available on my website and I'll link it in the description below. So if you painted along today, be sure to tag us so that we can see all of your beautiful paintings. Bye y'all.